Hello, people. Welcome to the community of the Growth Mindset podcast. Guys, if you are a first time listener, don't forget to subscribe on whichever platform you're listening from so that you don't miss on more interesting episodes coming up in the following weeks. And for our daily listeners, here we are again with a new episode where we will interview another interesting personality from a unique industry and understand how they were able to accomplish this great level of success. Remember, this is a podcast where we learn easy, practical methods and tips that we can implement in our daily lives from the very best and the most successful people known today. Because as we all know, success leaves clues. And we, the people having the growth mindset, will use these clues to create a better, more fulfilling, and a successful life. So, let the growth begin. All right. So first thing first, Neil, thank you so much for taking your time out and joining us on the Growth Mindset podcast. It is a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So Neil, you don't need any introduction. So I am gonna, just dive deep into our conversation. Now, I was listening to your book, right? I have your book downloaded, The Hustle. Now, in your book, Hustle, you talk about you starting your career from mopping floors to now becoming world's number one marketing guru or an expert. How did this happen? I'm very curious.
So I don't know if I'm the number one marketing expert or guru. I still probably have a long way to go to get there.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that's helped me, and I'm very honest and transparent. One thing that helped me is timing. If you think about what you're doing with podcasts, you got in early in the Indian market, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I started my career early, which did help, of course. But even there's a lot of people who started early, and there's actually a lot of people who started before me. And starting early doesn't guarantee success.
True.
One thing that I've done is I'm not the smartest person, but I'm persistent. So when I see something working, I go all in. Even if I can't map out the ROI, I keep going all in. I'm Gujarati, and Gujaratis are known for being penny pinchers in India, right? So
Yep.
what's funny is in my personal life, I don't spend a lot, but in business, if something's working, I go all in. I don't penny pinch in business, and I just double down and I keep investing and I keep putting anything that I make back in. And instead of spending money on a nice car or clothes that I don't need, I spend it on business and doubling down. I was talking to my team earlier, and I was like, I want a 4x content production, and they're just like, you're crazy. And I'm like, well, after I 4x it, I want to then 4x it more after that. And they're like, you're crazy. And I'm just a big believer in you just go, you do more than everyone else, you keep grinding it out, and you don't stop. And there's no easy path. There's no one thing that'll get you to where you want to be. It's just doing a lot of little things right for many, 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 many years when other people aren't willing to.
Interesting. Now, how did you get a break into marketing? Like you were, mopping floors in an amusement park, right?
Yeah.
So where did you get the opportunity? Which was your first gig and how did that transition happen?
Sure. So I was mopping floors and I didn't like my job and cleaning restrooms. It's not fun, but you got to make money. But while I was doing this, I was looking for jobs online and I ran into a job board. And when I ran into a job board, I didn't qualify for any of the jobs online, but I saw that they were making hundreds of millions of dollars. So I was like, you know what? I can't find a job. So I can't find a high paying job. Let me just create my own job website. So I paid some people, got it created, and then very little people came to my job website. And it was at that point that I realized that I had to do something called marketing. So I learned it. I got decent at it. And being a Gujarati kid whose mom is a teacher, I was also taking college classes in high school. And one of my first classes was speech. And I gave a speech on, it was called Speech 101, but I gave a speech on how to do SEO and how to market. And someone ended up hiring me. They were paying me around $5,000 a month, but I was making them over $20 million in revenue.
Wow.
That was my first big break.
Interesting. Now, on your in your book, you basically talk about hustle, right? And initially, you start off your book with entrepreneur hustle. Now, I want to understand what exactly is entrepreneur hustle and what is the right kind of hustle.
So I'll even make it simpler, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's jump into what is the right kind of hustle. And because hustle is a very vague term, I'm going to break it down on how someone can achieve results. So think about what your goal is that you want to achieve within the next 12 months. You don't have to wait for a New Year's resolution or anything. Just think about what your goal is for the next 12 months. And then take that goal and be like, do I think this is realistic? You may
Hmm.
not have the answer to that. Break that goal down into what do I need to do over the next 12 months, each month, month 1, month 2, month 3, etc., all the way to month 12 to hit that. And then if you think you can do everything within those 12 months, your goal is probably realistic. If it's not, go back to the drawing board and adjust your goal.
Hmm.
So then once you break things down into 12-month period, I want you to then say, okay, here's what I need to do in month 1. We'll break down month 1 into 4 weeks. And then I want you to break down what you need to do over those 4 weeks into take each week and break it down into 7 days. And then when you have what tasks you need to do within each day, break down the task into things that can be completed within 20 to 30 minutes, 1 hour max.
Hmm.
And then now you have your to-do list on what you need to do each and every single day to try to hit your goal. And don't go to sleep until you accomplish it that day. Every day. That's it. Just grind it out. Do whatever it takes. Make sure on a daily basis you're accomplishing whatever you need to hit that goal in that 12-month period. And because you've broken down your goal and from a 1 year goal to what you need to do monthly, to what you need to do weekly, to what you need to do daily, to what you need to do even per hour, you're much more likely to accomplish it because it's meaningful, bite size. Because when you look at this thing saying, I got this goal and you need to hustle my way to get there, well, that's a year from now. You're going to be like, I can do that tomorrow. I can do
True.
this. And that's why most people don't hit them because it's unrealistic. You need to break
Hmm.
it down onto what you're going to do each day and create the right mindset and habits saying, I'm going to wake up and work on my goals and I'm not going to go to sleep until I accomplish all my tasks for that day so I can hit my goal at the end of the year. Period. I don't care if you're sick. I don't care if it's Christmas. You do your daily tasks.
Awesome. What I really love about what you've just said is, breaking those things so minute in detail that you know what you're exactly going to do rather than, pushing it forward, saying, I'm going to do this tomorrow or day after, right? Now, let's say I've devised a plan. Let's say one person has already decided what he wants to do, what business he wants to get into, right? Now, what you've said is amazing, like breaking it down into multiple parts and then breaking it down basically to hour-based or weekly or daily based tasks, right? But now
Yep.
let's say, how can people stay motivated? Now I can have a great picture, amazing plan, but then if
Yeah.
I don't execute, all that is for nothing, right? So how can people stay motivated to make sure they are hitting those goals?
You know what I found about motivation? It's really funny.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, when someone's not motivated, they look at it as a chore, a job, a lot of work, and they're not into it. They don't know if they want to do it. Usually means they don't love what they're doing. See,
Hmm.
if your goal is to I want to make more money at the end of a year, that's a bullshit goal. Spend less money. If you spend less money,
True.
you can live a happier life and you don't need to make as much. Who says you need millions of dollars or millions of rupees doesn't go that far anymore, right? Because of the
Yeah.
currency exchange. But it once did, 20, 30 years ago, a million rupees was much more. Uh, but when you look at it, if you don't love what you're doing, you're going to quit. You're going to give up. You're not going to be motivated. You don't need a motivational poster that says, keep pushing forward or opportunities are a dime a dozen or your hard work will pay off. What you really need is to find something you're passionate about and love. Because if you don't love what you do, then you're going to see it as work and you're going to be exhausted and you're going to be frustrated and you're not going to care for it. But the moment you love what you're doing, you'll just keep pushing forward without considering it work and you won't need that motivation because your love, your passion is your motivation.
Interesting. And how can somebody identify what they're passionate about before they get into or start a business? Any
I,
practical
I
tips you
see it
have?
as, yeah, I see it as trial and error. See, most
Hmm.
people think that you grow up and you say when you're a little kid, I want to be a police fireman. I want to be a firefighter. I'm Indian, so my parents were like more like I grew up. I want to be a doctor. I want to be lawyers,
Engineer.
not so much. Yeah, engineer, doctor.
Yeah.
You know, those are the common things. Doctor more than anything else.
True.
Which they're like, oh, doctor, good job. Very steady. And like, okay. But the problem is by the time you're a little kid to when you grow up, you usually don't want to do whatever you're thinking.
Yep.
And you're just like, wait, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what I'm passionate about, but everyone else does. Well, that's a false sense of reality because everyone else doesn't know what they want to do. The easiest way to find what you're passionate about is just try a lot of different things that you think you're interested in.
Hmm.
Spend a day doing something. Spend an hour. If you like it in the next hour, then spend the next day. If you like it in the next day, do the next week. And if you think you're going to really love it, you'll be like, wow, this is amazing. Time flies. If you don't
Interesting.
like it, then move on to the next thing. See, most people figure out what they're passionate about and what they love by trial and error. You tend to try a lot of different things and you end up landing on the thing that you're naturally better at. And what most people don't realize is that thing that you're naturally good at tends to also be the thing that you love and that you're passionate about. And
Very
then
true.
that's what you spend your time on. But what
Awesome.
you'll find is the things that are really hard to you, that are hard to come by, usually people aren't passionate about that. They want the things that are easier to them.
Exactly. So it makes sense, right? You identifying what exactly is your strengths and then trying to go after those and see if you actually love those or not. And if you think that's not for you, I mean, yeah, you can obviously go ahead and try new things.
That's correct.
Interesting. Yeah. Now, going back to the conversation of, let's say, somebody starting a business, right? Now, if you had to give three top advices, any three practical tips that you think an entrepreneur should keep in mind before starting a business or when he started a business, what are those tips to make sure that that company succeeds and they're also making a good name? How can they do that?
Sure. So the first tip I have for you is speed and execution is everything. If you can't move fast, you're going to lose. Someone else is going to out execute you and be faster than you.
Hmm.
The second thing that you really need to keep in mind is there's not enough time in the day for you to do everything. And you probably don't have much money when you're starting off. So get a business partner. Your business partner shouldn't be the same as you. If you're an amazing marketer, don't get another amazing marketer as a business partner. If you're amazing at operations, don't get an operations person. Maybe get another marketer or get a designer or a product person or engineer. They have to complement you. They have to have different skill sets than you, because that way you can get more work done within the hour or within the day technically than if you're just by yourself.
Hmm.
The third tip I have for you is you're going to make a shitload of mistakes. That's okay. Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, they all make mistakes. Jeff Bezos, all make mistakes. The guy who owns Jio, the cell
Geo
phone company.
Ambani's.
Yeah, I'm Mukesh Ambani, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
richest guy in India, I think.
Yep, he is.
And he's a big personal brand. Even he makes mistakes. Everything he touches does not turn to gold. He's made many
True.
mistakes. It's okay. If you make mistakes, doesn't mean you won't succeed. The
Hmm.
key is you take the mistakes you've made, you learn from them, and you avoid making the same ones over and over again. See, I'm not the smartest person. I've made too many mistakes. Every time I make a mistake, I learn from it, and then I avoid making it over and over again. And
Hmm.
eventually, I'm left with the things that I should be doing. See, I didn't start off as an entrepreneur saying I need to do these things to succeed. I started off as an entrepreneur making too many mistakes. And then once you stop making those mistakes because you learn from them, you're left with the stuff you should do, and that's how you succeed.
Exactly. No, makes total sense. Now, if I had to ask you, you touched the base, wherein Mukesh Ambani has having a great personal brand. Now, there are a lot of entrepreneurs here in India who are getting into this space of starting their own business. I don't know if you've observed this, but a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot lot of businesses are starting here in India, right?
India is
Now,
booming right now.
yeah,
Give it the next 5-10 years, it'll be a massively wealthy country.
exactly. So I have observing the pattern that, where people are actually starting more businesses, more entrepreneurs are rising. Now, for entrepreneurs who want to build their own personal brand, right? What is your advice to them? Any three practical tips that you think can help people build a solid personal brand?
Sure, if you want to build a personal brand, follow the rule of seven. In marketing,
Hmm.
when you do something 7 times, or not when you do something, when someone sees or interacts with your brand 7 times, they're much more likely to remember you, evangelize you, have that emotional connection. So you need to follow the rule of seven. So how do you get someone to see or interact with you 7 times?
Hmm.
You do things like blog posts, podcasts. You do things like posts on social media. You go live. All these are examples of people getting to know you, seeing you.
Hmm.
And when you do that at mass scale, it'll start building your brand.
Hmm.
That's the rule of 7.
And you mentioned this in your book as well, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
Well, in the book, we either mentioned the rule of 7 or we mentioned it on our website. I don't even know if actually the website is up because the book is a few years old. But we had a
Yeah.
website that had all the notes to hustle, and we were breaking down tactics and tips. And one of them I ended up writing about the rule of 7.
Interesting. Interesting.
Although I've kind of written too much content these days. I don't even remember half the stuff I've written.
I did go through your website and I saw a ton of information of like, wow, you are putting out a lot of content out there, which is amazing.
Yeah.
On the same book, right? Since we are talking about your book, and if I could ask you if there was something in your book that you would like to add, a chapter or new technique that you've learned. Your book came out in September 8, 2016. It's been 4 years now, right? So if you had to add a chapter or a new theory that you've learned over these 4 years, what would that be?
That's a good question. One thing that I would add that's not in the book is if you want to succeed, how can you make it where your competition can't compete with you organizationally or structurally? Now, here's what I mean by that. If I release, in the next 6 months, I'm going to release a product called Uber Send. Okay, I have a marketing tool called Uber Suggest. I'm going to release an email tool called Uber Send. In India, a lot of people use MailChimp, free email tool, right?
Yes.
Very popular in India.
True.
MailChimp offers you a limited number of contacts and sends.
Correct.
They make $700 million a year, according to them, at least articles I've read online.
Okay.
I offer an email tool that is unlimited sends, unlimited contacts for free. MailChimp, technically, they could try to compete, but organizationally and structurally, they cannot.
Yeah.
Now, let me break down why. If they make $700 million a year, how do they make that money?
Correct.
By people sending emails, right? The more contacts they have, more emails they send.
Correct.
But if they say, hey, we won't charge you for emails anymore, you can send as many as you want for free, how much revenue would MailChimp make?
Nothing.
Nothing. So can they just change their business model and lose 700 million when they have, let's say, 1,000 employees or 700 or 600, whatever the number is?
Nope.
You can't.
You can't.
Can HubSpot, who's publicly traded, do the same thing? No, they can't.
Exactly.
Can you also go, being a new entrepreneur, and go to VC and say, I want to raise money for this free email product. I don't know how I'm going to make money. I'm going to give unlimited sends, unlimited contacts?
Nope.
Most VCs would say you're crazy. But do you understand what I mean by organizationally and structurally, they cannot compete? So if you can create a business where your competition is unable to match what you're doing, it makes it much easier to win.
Okay. In your own experience, right, Neil, what mistakes you're seeing people make who are trying to build a business?
So the big mistake that I see people making, and I made this one too many times, is they don't go after big enough TAMs. So a TAM is a total addressable market. The bigger the market, the easier it is to take a small slice of a pie. Mukesh Ambani is a smart guy. He created a telecom company. Yeah. Telecommunications in India is big. So many people use cell phones instead of desktop computers and laptops and everything. In many cases, the cell phone infrastructure is better than the hardwired infrastructure, depending on what city you're in, right?
Correct. Yes.
So that's a big market. On the flip side, if Mukesh Ambani, even though he's rich and smart and powerful, if he decided to create a business creating curtains like the one behind you, it's not that big of a business, you know? True. It doesn't matter how smart he is, how good he is, how good he executes. A small business is a small business, you know?
Yeah.
But he did it right. He created an amazing network with, Geo, and what he ended up doing was getting all the celebrities, pushing it, creating a very, very big market. Huge company. A lot of money in the short run for it, but it's worth a lot of money.
Yeah, that was a great tactic, right? Wherein he actually gave out, as you just mentioned, organizational structure, a very classic example. wherein when Jio first was launched, right, Mukesh Ambani's network, he gave free. I mean, like for the next 1 year, everything was free. Free internet, free calls, all you want. But then after a year, when all the other companies exhausted, they knew that they can't compete against something that is free. Obviously, they had to reduce. All the different companies, telecommunications companies, had to reduce their charges. And now Jio is one of the leading ones out there.
And
That's a
the
very
pricing
smart,
is cheaper too. Geo's
very
cheaper.
very cheap, very cheap. Yes, compared to
And the
all the other
Geo's
vendors.
big TAM. You get what I mean? That's a massive market.
True, true. Now, if I could ask you now, coming a little away from business side, right? Uh, in terms of living a fulfilling and a satisfied life, Neil, right? What do you think people can do to get into that state where they also are successful in their professional lives, but also making sure they're also successful in their personal lives?
So personal life, the way I look at it is are you content in life? A lot of people try to be happy, but happiness is a state that goes up and then it tends to go down. You don't stay happy forever. You want to be content. You don't want the ups and you don't want a ton of downs. You want to just be level all the time. And if you can get a little bit of ups and some amazing moments, that's great as well. And the way I look at life is when things are going really well for you, remember, someone else always has it better than you. And when things are going very poor for you and not in your favor, remember, there's always someone out there who has it much worse than you, right? Are you
Definitely.
sleeping on the side of the road in a tent with 20 people in your family? Probably not if you're listening to this podcast. There's always someone who has it worse than you. And there's always someone who has it better than you, whether it's Mukesh Ambani or Bill Gates or Elon Musk. There's always someone who has it better than you. So that helps you keep level headed when things are good or bad. So that way you just keep pushing forward in your personal life, right? And you
Makes
can use
sense.
this same concept in business, but the key is just to be content with what you have. You don't need a Ferrari. In India, I'm seeing this boom now. It's starting to become where people
Hmm.
are starting to buy much more fancy cars. I
Yeah.
don't know if you noticed that trend.
Yeah.
Then they're starting to show off and taking pictures. I don't understand why. I understand why people are doing it because they like it and it helps
True.
create sales, but do you really need that? Does it really going to make that much of a difference? It's just a car. In India, there's so much traffic. It doesn't matter if you have a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. Person who has a
Interesting.
rickshaw
Yes.
or a bike is going to go through the lanes and he's going to get there faster than you.
True. No, that's a very good insight. And you being in the US and you're still keeping a track of what is happening in India, and you exactly know the rickshaw and the traffic out here. I mean, that's interesting. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I don't get it. I'm like, you want a Ferrari? You're going to sit in traffic for 2 hours. What's the point? It's not comfortable.
Exactly. Interesting.
And then you're going to get robbed and people are going to take your money and it creates all these other problems.
Things
You
are
agree with
crazy.
this, right? It just creates problems.
100%. Yep. Uh,
Although some of the actors and actresses, I get it. They have like the Rolls Royces and stuff like that.
they
But
have a whole different zone altogether. It's like a different planet for them, wherein they're living in some hi-fi buildings, bungalows, cars. They're sorted. They have their own business. But for somebody who is just starting up, just started to make some money, and they're starting to invest, I would not even
yeah,
say that's an investment. That's just you know, throwing your money out somewhere else. As you just said, that why do you need that if that's not your requirement? Why are you doing that in the first place? Makes total sense to me, though.
yeah.
Now, if I could ask you, Neil, any top two books that you think people should read, right? One is Hustle. Obviously, I would recommend people, all my listeners, to go ahead, grab the book, Audible, Amazon, Flipkart, and read the book. It is amazing. I'm loving it so far, and I'm making notes. I have a habit of writing down notes whenever I learn something new. So I've written down notes, and if you can also recommend now, let's say two other books to the listeners who can help them. One could be a personal book, which can help them in their personal lives. And the second book could be a business related book. What those two books be?
So I'm gonna give two books. I mainly read business books, so I'm gonna give business books if you don't mind. I
Sure,
don't
go
read
ahead.
too many personal books.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is Principles by Ray Dalio. And it just talks about a lot of the principles that Ray Dalio has used to succeed in life. And Ray Dalio is one of the biggest hedge
Yep.
fund managers in the United States. He's
Yep.
wealthy guy. My guess is 15 to 30 billion dollars, something like that. He's rich.
Yep.
But his principles are really good, and he actually gives away. I believe he still does online. He gives a free version away of his book, so you don't have to buy it. Because his
Oh
goal
wow.
isn't to make money, right? He's already rich, so I
He is
believe
rich.
you can still download free versions of it.
Mm-hmm.
And he has tablet versions and everything. And then the second book that I would recommend is Art of the Start by Guy Kawasaki. It's an
Okay.
old book, but it's about entrepreneurship, business, starting off, and it's amazing. It has a lot of theories and concepts in there, and he's funny
Interesting.
and he's right too. Like creating a successful business is harder than being in a pool and getting struck by lightning, you know. And he's totally spot on. But check
Interesting.
out those two books.
Yeah, awesome. Now there is this one question that I'm asked a lot, saying please ask your guest. Now I have somebody who is an expert in this field, right? This is a question where companies have their own websites, right? Now what can they do to make sure their website ranks number one? You are an expert in there. You know how to rank number one. What is your tip?
Amazing content, and not content with keywords. Like, don't get me wrong, you should do your keyword research. But when I mean amazing content, think about the user. What is going to cause them to go to your page, read your content, and be like, wow, I've gotten so much value. I'm going to go take what I learned and go do and implement what I just learned. That's an example of amazing content.
Hmm.
And think about how you can express that, whether that content is in images, videos, text. It can range. If I create content on how to tie a tie, I don't need a 2,000 word blog post. I can show images on how to tie a tie or a video.
True.
Think about what makes it the easiest and the best for the user. That's the type of content you need to push out first.
Hmm. Any specific platforms you think people should target? Now we have tons of platforms like Instagram, social media, YouTube, LinkedIn.
All of them. All of them. Repurpose your content. Remember how we talked about the rule of 7? When someone
Yes.
sees, interacts with your brand 7 times, they're much more likely to remember you.
Mm-hmm.
If you put your content on all these platforms, you're much more likely to hit people, get them to notice you, and see and interact with you 7 times.
Mm-hmm. Now, but a lot of people who are just starting up, let's say entrepreneurs who may not have a team right by their side, right? What can they do? Like just post the same content on all the different
Yeah.
platforms?
You don't have to do new content. You can just post the same
Mm,
content.
interesting. So that people don't have any more excuses now saying, I don't have a team member and I
Yeah,
can't
you can get
post.
a team member. Just
Us,
post it yourself. Like,
correct.
seriously, just post on all the channels. If you create text content that works well, go create a video version of it and post it on
Correct.
YouTube, and then upload the same video to Facebook and upload it to Instagram or IGTV, upload it to Twitch, upload it to LinkedIn, and just put it everywhere.
Awesome. Makes sense. Now I know, Neil, we are coming to the end of our conversation. So there are last two questions that I want to ask.
Go
Right?
for it.
All right. So the first question is, the importance of having the growth mindset, right? When you want to learn, you want to grow, you want to implement
Yep.
things in life. So according to you, what are some practical tips that people can do to develop the growth mindset in them?
Create routine and follow that routine every single day. So routine could be as simple as brushing your teeth or working out. And what I want you to do is every week add one thing to your routine and stick with it consistently. Because when you do that, it'll help you develop that mindset of, I gotta work and do things on a persistent, regular basis to succeed.
Awesome. And one last question. What do you think, Neil, is the purpose of life?
I think for each person it's different. For
Mm-hmm.
me, I enjoy walking with my daughter and my wife and relaxing. I think for every single person it's different. You got to figure out what makes you content, what your goals are, and that's what you need to follow. That is your purpose. You could just enjoy your time cooking all day. If that's the case, then be a cook, be a chef, or just cook for your family, right? Figure out what makes you content. Figure out what you really enjoy, and that is your purpose.
Awesome. So Neil, thank you so much, for taking your time out and joining us on the Growth Mindset podcast. I'm sure a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs are going to be benefited from our conversation today. And I'm going to make sure that I also include all the links to your website, your book, so that people can go ahead and find you and learn more about you. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.